What if the things that you think are true are actually a lie? What if, as an entrepreneur couple, there are some beliefs that you might have been taught, or maybe some beliefs that you are currently holding, even subconsciously, that could be secretly sabotaging your next level of growth, either in your business or in your relationship? Here's what we can tell you. After hundreds of coaching sessions with entrepreneur couples, and after thousands of conversations with entrepreneur couples from all over the world, there are 5 dangerous lies that many couples in business believe. And a lot of these are operating beneath the surface. A lot of these beliefs that are operating beneath the surface are damaging a lot of businesses today. They are stunting the growth of revenue, but they're also stunting the growth in the relationship. In fact, these are like seeds that are planted in the garden of your mind that instead of sprouting fruit, they actually sprout weeds. And what those weeds do is they actually constrict the growth, both in your business as well as in your relationship as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to pick out those weeds. More literally speaking, what we're going to do is we're going to identify what those 5 lies are. And then what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to remove those lies from your mind. Because here is a writer downer for you. When you remove the lie, you remove the limit. Ariel, what is lie number 1 that people need to just get out of their minds?
So lie number 1 that we see in a lot of couplepreneurs is that building a business may strain my relationship. So to give you an example of this, many years ago when I was in my own separate business from Kyle, I had my own business and I was feeling very stuck in my business. Like I had reached a certain revenue level and I was just kind of stuck right there. And so I decided to hire a coach that would help me break through that revenue plateau. And I remember on our first session together, I'm coming into this like, help me build my business. And I remember telling him like, hey, I just can't be consistent. Like I know what I need to do, but I'm just not being consistent with it. And I remember he was like, okay, Ariel, you can't be consistent. What's the worst thing that could happen if you were successful? I was like,
interesting question.
Oh, what a good question. I was like, well, at first I was like, well, I'd have all this money. I'd have all this time. Like, I'd be like, what are you talking about? The worst thing. But then it kind of came out. And I don't know if you've ever heard like word vomit, right? But it kind of came out where I said like, well, if my business grows, it could tank my relationship with Kyle. And I realized in that moment that I had this belief that as the business grew, it was going to cause strain on my relationship. It was going to decrease the time that we were able to spend together. It was going to decrease the mental capacity that I had to give to our relationship. And when I said this, I was even kind of surprised by my own words because I didn't realize that this was a thing that I had actually believed. And looking back on this experience, when I think about it, I had entrepreneurial parents, and they were business owners, I would call them. My stepdad owned a construction business. My mom owned a daycare business. And seeing them run businesses, I realized that a lot of the division and the stress that they had and the tension between them as a couple, I had attributed to their business because I saw them have fights over money. I saw them have fights over, who was responsible for doing certain things in the household when they were both so busy and so exhausted at the end of the day. And, I love my parents dearly and they did their best. But seeing this, it had formed a deep-seated belief in my mind that business success or having a business and watching that business grow would decrease the amount of time, energy, and capacity you could give to your other relationships. And so I believed that it would cause division. So when I realized this, I remember I brought this to Kyle. Like I had talked to my coach about it. I went to Kyle and I was like, hey, this kind of came out in my session today and I didn't realize this, but I feel like growing my business is going to cause tension in our relationship. And he was like, that's not going to happen, right? And he started to bring to me like all of the other things that made, me running a business and him running a business so great. And he shared that he not only supported me, but there were all these other reasons that being business owners actually gave us more freedom, actually allowed us to grow closer, actually allowed us to have a deeply fulfilling relationship. And so I started to form this new belief and really work on this new belief that, building a business wasn't going to cause division in my relationship. Instead, what if it could grow us closer together? And so over time, I worked on this. And if I could say so, 2 months after encountering this and bringing it to Kyle and really working on this mentally, 2 months after having done nothing different strategy-wise in my business, I had my highest revenue month ever. And I changed nothing else. And I fully believe that it was due to the fact that there was no longer this subconscious belief operating in my mind that, growing the business would cause division, because why would I do something subconsciously that would cause pain?
Mm-hmm.
So if I have this belief operating that's going to cause pain between us, I'm not going to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And we see this time and time again with other entrepreneur couples. In fact, we were in a mastermind room once with 6, 7, even 8-figure CEOs, where one of the biggest beliefs that a lot of people said that they had was that growing a business would cause them to sacrifice their relationships. Yeah. Because a lot of times they find that when they get busier, their intimacy goes down. When they get busier, their quality of time goes down. But the opposite is true. And we've seen this in couplepreneurs. We've seen where they have more time for each other because they're able to create the freedom when you have the right strategies and team in place. We've seen where, Kyle and I are able to go on a random date night or date day in the middle of the day on a Tuesday to the beach because we have the freedom to do so. And the same is true for you, right? So instead of believing this old belief that maybe a successful business will cause strain or division in your relationships, what if a successful business can actually grow you closer together?
So what Ariel is walking you through right now is a process of removing an old limiting belief that is secretly sabotaging your success and replacing that old belief with a new belief that is actually more true.
Yes.
Because when you could replace a lie with a truth, that truth will set you free. That truth is going to be the new belief that you install inside of your mind that allows you to push beyond the limits that you might be self-imposing right now. But specifically for entrepreneur couples, if you could replace the lie that building a business will hurt your relationship, and you could replace it with the truth that it will actually help your relationship, and you could feed that new belief with evidence that you have already experienced that proves that new belief to be true, that is how you solidify that new belief. So this is the process with you. So what is some evidence in your life that building a business actually grows you closer together with your partner? What is lie number 2, Ariel, that a lot of entrepreneur couples believe?
Lie number 2 is that building a business may prevent me from fulfilling my roles. Now, when I say roles, what I mean is, as business owners and as couplepreneurs, we fulfill a lot of roles in life. We are business owners and CEOs. You're oftentimes also the CMO and the, CFO and everything else in your business when you're getting started. Yep. But there's a lot of roles that you fulfill in the business, but there's also roles as a mom, as a dad, as a husband, as a wife, as, a daughter, a son. There's all these other roles that we play, right? And I remember in the earlier years of building one of my businesses, I found myself feeling like a failure more often than I felt like I was successful. Meaning I felt like if I was so focused on the business that I was dropping balls in all these other areas of life. Meaning, I felt like I couldn't show up very well as a wife because I was so distracted by the business. Or I felt like, I wasn't really taking care of the house very well because the house was always a mess because I was so focused on the business. Or I felt like if I was trying to take care of the house or trying to be a good wife, that I was dropping balls in the business and I was not growing my revenue like I wanted to, or I was not leading my team like I wanted to, right? And I felt like I couldn't do it all. And so essentially I felt like I was juggling a lot of balls, but just dropping them left and right. And I realized when this was the case that there was a belief operating in my mind that if I built my business more, like if I'm already so capped for time, if I'm already so capped in my mental and physical energy, that building a business will prevent me from being able to do all those other things well. And that was this old belief that was operating in my mind. And I was only feeding it evidence that it was true because, man, I felt like every time the business would grow, I'd have more responsibility and my ability to fulfill the other areas would decrease, right? But what really shifted me out of this was being able to see other people who that wasn't the case for. Specifically, encountering and meeting business owners who had 7-figure, 8-figure, beyond businesses that were able to do it all in a sense, right? They had businesses that were running like a well-oiled machine. They were able to, go to their daughter's dance recitals. They were able to they have an incredible, powerful relationship. And being able to see people at that level operating it that way made me realize there's no way that this is just inherently true, that as the business grows, your ability to show up in the other roles and areas of life is going to decrease because they're doing it. So when I started to see these counterexamples, it really started to shift my belief into this new belief of maybe a successful business can actually enhance how I show up in those roles. Because I would see these 7-8 figure business owners who were incredible wives, husbands, moms, dads, being able to show up so powerfully because they had a business that gave them freedom.
Yep.
And they were also in charge and in control of their life versus just doing what a boss or what somebody else wanted them to do. Right? And so it really started to strengthen this new belief that a successful business can actually enhance how I show up in those roles. And I found the evidence by looking at other people who were actually doing it. And as I continued to do that, I started to see the evidence in my own life that, again, Kyle and I can go on a random date and it allows me to be an amazing wife. That having more money sometimes allows us to focus on the things that we want to focus on versus just feeling strapped and feeling stressed all the time due to finances. And it allows me to have that mental capacity to pour back into our relationship, right? So if this resonates with you at all, I'm curious, what is it for you, right? If the old belief that, I've experienced and maybe some of you have experienced as well is that a successful business will prevent you from showing up or fulfilling your roles in other areas, what is some evidence to support a new belief, a truth that a successful business can enhance how you show up in those areas?
The truth is, and we've seen it over and over and over again with the entrepreneur couples that we coach inside the Couplepreneur Accelerator, the more that you're able to grow the business, it actually gives you the ability, the mental capacity, and the freedom to fulfill the roles that you feel called to fulfill even more, not less. That leads us to the third lie that entrepreneur couples believe, which is
the third lie is that building a business may prevent me from pursuing my other passions. I'm gonna let you take this one.
Yeah, this one was near and dear to my heart. So if anyone here has ever felt like, man, if I just pour all of my time into my business, I'm not gonna have time to do the things that I love. I was where you are, but now I don't feel that way at all. Because, earlier on in my entrepreneurial journey, I dropped out of college to tour in a rock band. But unfortunately, we were never big. We got close. We were on tour. I got to be in a tour bus. It was a really fun experience, but we never quite hit our stride. And because that was the case, I got off tour in a rock band, which I quit college to join, and I did not have marketable skills. So what I do, I found a mentor to teach me how to do things that actually allow me to make money. And as our businesses grew and as our responsibilities grew, I went from playing music all the time to now being focused on business. And that's where this belief started coming in. Yeah. So I had a lot of success in my early 20s. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. But I don't want to do it anymore. And I don't want to push harder. I don't want to keep moving forward. I don't want to keep climbing because I feel like I've taken my passion for music and just put it on the wayside. So I started moving forward and I would actually self-sabotage myself by trying to make less money in business. It's almost like if you have a limiting belief, it's almost like you have one foot on the gas pedal and one foot on the brake the whole time. And this limiting belief was the brake that actually was stunting my growth. I'm like, basically, if you feel like it's not safe to go any further because it's going to cause you pain, that's what's going to self-sabotage you, basically. So for me, I was like, man, I love music so much and I love business. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to sacrifice my passion on the altar of business. That sucks. So here's what we did though. What was really interesting is I remember one day I was telling this to Ariel and we were kind of reflecting back on the earlier stages of my business growth. And you actually told me something that changed this belief. In the earlier stages of my business, the times where I made the most money very, very quickly, which was from the 0 to multi 6 figures in my 20s, with that time period, I was actually doing more music, not less. Yep. And what happened was by Ariel showing me the evidence that actually, the more I focus on what I'm passionate about, the more my business grows simultaneously. When you showed me that evidence, I was like, oh, wait a second. What am I thinking? Business isn't going to keep me from pursuing my passion. In fact, the more I pursue my passion, it actually feeds more energy into the business, which also feeds more revenue and more funds into the music. So once that belief started to just loosen in my mind, here's what happened. I actually started playing drums more often. So now I'm in a position where I could play drums at our church whenever I want. I can play music whenever I want. There have been multiple times where throughout the week, I'll just take the day off and just focus on music. And the reason why I can do that is because that's what business allows you to do, because that is the truth. Now, what I'm not saying is that if you just pursue your passion, your business will be successful. I'm sure you guys know that. You have to actually do the work on both ends to make anything successful. But because music is my passion, here's what I can tell you. I have the ability to play music and I get to do things in the music world that I did not get to do prior to having a business. Because I don't know if y'all know this, but the whole starving artist thing, it's a real deal, right? You could be playing like huge festivals, but you're playing like in a smelly bus with a lot of people that like have just enough money to buy fast food, right? So when I'm building this business, I have so many opportunities that I didn't have before, including the freedom to pursue passion, which only fuels the business more. So is that the case for you? Do you believe that business actually allows you to fulfill your passion more or less? The answer is, the truth is that your business actually gives you the ability to pursue your passion more.
Yeah.
And just like Ariel did with me, I want to do with you. What is some evidence in your life to show that that is true? That business will actually allow you to fulfill your passion more. All right, so that was lie number 3. But we got 2 more.
Yep.
And they get even more insidious as they go. Ariel, what is lie number 4?
Lie number 4 is building a business may cause me to be overshadowed or to overshadow my partner. Now, this one is typically specific to those who are working in business together, but we've, also seen this with people who have separate businesses. But I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago at our Couplepreneurs Live in-person event, we had an amazing client of ours stand up, and we were doing some Q&A. And she stood up and she shared with us and with the audience that she was feeling like she was really stuck because she felt like being in business with her partner, she was going to overshadow him. Mm-hmm. Now, specifically, her name is Daylene. They're an amazing couple. She's an amazing person. And she's like the extroverted, very outgoing one. And her husband is a little more reserved, a little quieter. And to her, what she felt like was if they were in business together and that she like fully all out pursued the business with all she had, that she was going to overshadow him. And I know we've also seen this on the opposite side where, when Kyle and I we had separate businesses for many years. And when we were looking at coming into business together, I thought that because Kyle's the extroverted one, that I was going to be overshadowed and that I was going to have to compete with him. Mm-hmm. And so we've seen this time and time again. And for this client, specifically Daylene and James, when we got the opportunity to discuss this with them at the event, we were like, okay, just a few minutes prior to this conversation, that couple was on stage teaching our audience some dance moves to connect deeper with their partner. Because what they do is they are dance instructors and they run dance retreats to help couples come closer together. And we looked at the audience and we were like, did anybody feel when they were on stage like James, her husband, was overshadowed? Not a single person said yes. In fact, everybody said the opposite, that they just showed up as this strong power couple on stage because they were both in their element doing what it was that they were doing. And even though they have different personalities, they both showed up strong, right? And so if there's maybe this belief that being in business together may overshadow one or the other, for them, the truth was that a successful business actually brought both of their gifts to light. Mm-hmm. Because they both had a gift. Even if one was more extroverted, one was more introverted. Even if one of you is more operationally minded, one of you is more people minded. Mm-hmm. Even if one of you, is a little quieter and the other person talks a little bit more or has a boomier voice like Kyle, whatever it is. The truth is that being in business allows you guys to find your strengths, to find your energy styles, which we talked about this week, and to elevate those into the light. Because when they were on stage, when this couple was on stage, Daylene showed up powerfully, James showed up powerfully, and every single person only saw an empowered couple that was leading them through some dance, right? And the same is probably true for you. If you've ever been in a position where you feel like you're going to overshadow your partner, step on their toes, or you feel like maybe your partner is going to do that to you and there's some hesitancy there, there's some feeling like you have to play small in order for that not to happen, then what if your business could bring both of your gifts to light? Right? So if that's true for you and maybe you resonate with this, I'd love to know from you guys, what is some evidence in your life, just as we've been doing, to support the new belief, the truth, that a successful business can elevate both of your gifts despite your differences?
So if you're more extroverted and your partner is more introverted or vice versa, how does the business actually allow you to shine in that? Yeah. If you're more organized and your partner is a little bit more spontaneous and creative, how does the business allow you to both shine in that regard? Because guess what, y'all? I'm sure you already know. Successful business requires all of that.
Yes.
It requires some extroversion. It requires some introversion. It requires people to be organized. It also requires some creativity and spontaneity.
Yep.
It requires, left brain thinking. It also requires right brain thinking. And usually you're with your partner because your partner completes and complements you in a way that is helpful to make you more whole. That is what we've seen. And I'm sure you've seen that as well. And when you can recognize that this is a gift, not a curse, but a gift, just like opening up a gift in Christmas. And when you open it up and all of a sudden you're filled with joy because of like how grateful you are for receiving that gift. That is what is on the other side of you for recognizing the truth of what it is today. Yeah. That business actually allows you to elevate both your areas of gifting.
Speaking of giftings, you're very gifted at analogies.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I love them.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you always joke around too, because you said that one of the things that I say all the time is, let me give you an analogy.
Let me give you an analogy. And I'm like, I don't need an analogy, but sometimes they're very good and they're very helpful.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So that is lie number 4, y'all. And as we're speaking, I can already just start to feel, the chains in your mind that are just breaking right now. Yeah. And if they're not broken yet, this last one is going to break it wide open for so many people. And I know this because we've gotten emails from couples after saying this before, and they have said that this was one of the most powerful things they've ever heard. So tune in for this. The last and maybe the most insidious lie that so many entrepreneur couples believe is this.
That building a business may make me look salesy or greedy.
Have you ever had that thought in the back of your mind? Man, if I go out and I promote my stuff, am I going to look salesy? Am I going to look like greedy? Am I going to look evil? I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in a household, no joke, it's kind of ironic. I grew up in a household where I regularly heard my parents say things like, I hate salesmen. Yep. I've heard my parents say things like, rich people are evil. Have you guys ever heard that? And by the way, nothing wrong with my mom, nothing wrong with my dad. Yeah. We respect them for their own reasons, but we also need to make sure that we're shedding some of these things that we've picked up from authority figures that do not serve us anymore. Yeah. Because if we go around believing that selling is evil versus the service that it actually is, or selling makes you look bad or makes you rejected by a community of people, it's going to be really hard for you to have the confidence to sell your product and service to the degree that it's going to take you to the next revenue level that you want to get to. Can you relate to this? Have you guys ever heard this, like these lies that like, in order to be rich or in order to make money, you have to be salesy, you have to be greedy, you have to be unethical? Have you ever heard these lies? Man, we need to do some work today to get rid of those lies, because my gosh, it will keep you stuck in your business. And the reason why I know is because I got to a certain point in my own life where my business was doing well. And then all of a sudden it capped. Yeah. And then year over year, like my consulting business, like it would stay at the same revenue level every single year. And I was like, this is so weird. What is happening? Yeah. And when I really dug deep inside of it, the reason why is because I had this belief that in order to be wealthy, which in my mind, I subjectively just labeled by a specific number in my mind, in order to be wealthy, I have to be evil. And I don't want to be evil. I want to be one of the good guys. I want to be a person that stands for the morality and the ethics that are required to actually serve people and be a positive role model for other people. That's what I really want. So I don't want to be this evil rich person. Yeah. Maybe you've experienced this as well, or maybe not. I don't know. Here's what I discovered though. The way to overcome these limiting beliefs is to expose yourself to evidence that proves this is not true, that this belief is not true. My very first mentor, when I came to his house, he had a movie theater in his basement. And to me, I was like, what? You have a movie theater in your basement? This is ridiculous. We could barely afford to go to the movies, period. And you have one in your basement? What? And it didn't make sense to me, because I'm like, wait a second, you're not evil and you have a movie theater in your basement? Like, something's not making sense here.
And you're a nice guy. And
I was just about to say that. This guy was not only like wealthy, he was also a super nice guy. He was one of the largest donors to the church that we were going to at the time. He had an amazing family. He was really, really like very nice, very supportive, always involved in his kids' sports and their extracurricular activities. So I'm like, wait a second, something's not making sense here. Yeah. Because this is an example of somebody that is actually wealthy and very, very good. Now, here's what happened. If you want to use an analogy, that was part of what was pulling the weeds of this lie out of my mind. Later on in life, here's what I also saw. When I started becoming successful as a digital marketing consultant, I got to see what happens on the other end of selling tens of millions of dollars worth of products and services. You guys want to know what's on the other end of that? When you are sending out an email to 2 million people at a time and you are selling millions and millions of dollars of services and products and online training courses and things that are just like changing people's lives. You know what's on the other side of that? Thousands of testimonial videos of lives being changed.
Yeah.
That's what's on the other side of you selling your products and services. And here's what happened. As I continued to get older and wiser, I saw more and more evidence to the contrary, that business requires you to be salesy or evil or greedy. It's the exact opposite. Because if you have something that could genuinely change the lives of other people, and you get it in front of other people and you communicate it in a way that it allows it to make sense to the people that you were called to serve, then it is your moral obligation to do everything you can to get that life change into their hands. Because the more you sell, the more you serve. And you don't have to do it in a salesy way. You don't have to do it in an unethical way. You could do it in a way that still gives value. You could do it in a way that is still genuine and authentic, which, by the way, nothing sells greater than the truth.
Yeah.
So you never want to even consider lying or twisting the truth in order to sell something.
Yes.
Because if you do that, people can detect that. People aren't stupid. Like your audience is not dumb. People have innate, trained psychological triggers in their mind when they can detect somebody is not being truthful. So you're only hurting yourself by showing up and not telling the truth. But if you're telling the truth, here's what happens. It resonates at such a deep level where people listen to your voice, they listen to your videos, they listen to your content, they show up and they engage with you, and they start thinking in the back of their mind, you know what? This is somebody that can help me. Yeah. This is somebody that I can see myself working with. This is somebody that I can see myself partnering alongside. This is somebody who can help me solve the problems that I have and help me get to where I want to go. And when you create that resonance with your audience, that is what allows you to serve at a greater level. And you know what's cool too? The more clients and customers you serve, it also gives you more money in your business, which allows you to serve your team. It allows you to serve more people in your community, and it all works symbiotically together. So here is my question to you guys today. What is some evidence in your life that the more that you sell, the more that you serve?
Yeah.
Who are some customers that you've helped? Who are some clients that you've helped? What are some case studies, some testimonials, some life transformations that have happened on the other side of people saying yes to your offer?
Yes.
I know for us, you know what this looks like? This looks like being at our Couplepreneurs Live and having a couple come up to us and say, you know what, Kyle and Ariel, you guys have done more, not just for our business. That's great. Like we're making more money, but like you have done more for our relationship than months and months of coaching and counseling and therapy combined. That to us, that's evidence.
Yeah.
And you know what else is evidence? We have talked to so many couples that maybe were in our world for a little while. They were considering working with us, but decided not to. We were talking to quite a few of them yesterday. And you know what? You know what happened? From some of the texts that we sent out, from some of the emails that we sent out, we've gotten more responses this time than ever before of people saying that they are no longer with their significant other. Yeah. And that breaks our heart. Yeah. This is what we see. We see what happens on the other side of the couples that we have the opportunity to coach, and we see what happens when people don't get the help that they need. Yeah. We see what happens. We see what happens when people don't take the time to align with their significant other on the vision for the business. We see what happens when people let the complexity of couplepreneurship take over their life. And of course, not only does it cannibalize the relationship, it cannibalizes the business too. So many people are also shutting their businesses down who have been in our community. And that hurts us because we exist to help you guys. We exist. We created this community to do the exact opposite of that, which is to lift more couples up, help them rise in their relationship, help them rise in their business, and actually create examples of unity in a world that is so divided. That is why we're here. So to see that breaks our heart.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, especially as business, quite honestly, is getting a little harder.
Yep.
If you guys haven't seen this lately, but we've also been seeing in the marketplace, we've been seeing with just in general, business is changing, things are changing. And of course, there are still so many businesses that are succeeding. But when things are changing and that tension arises in the business, that oftentimes carries over into the relationship. Yeah. And so we're seeing time and time again how the stresses of business are tearing people apart.
Right.
And the truth is that business can be such an amazing thing that allows you and your partner to grow closer together, but it can also be the opposite.
Yeah.
It can also be something that causes so much strife and stress and weight and responsibility that it can actually intercede in the relationship and cause people to decide to walk away from it.
Yeah. Walk away from the relationship, walk away from the business. And when you walk away from that, guess what you're doing? You are telling yourself and you're telling everybody else around you that you are giving up on your dreams. And that's the example that you're setting.
Yeah.
And we don't want anyone to be in that position.
No. And the reason why we covered these things today is because, again, we've seen these 5 lies hold so many entrepreneur couples back, but it's not just about you.
No,
it's not. It's not about you. It's not about us. It's about the example and the legacy that you're leaving. Because many of you have kids. Many of you have kids that are watching you. You have, your surrounding family that's watching you. You have your community that's watching you. You have your audience, people within your network that are watching you. And what's the example that you're setting? And I don't mean that to be harsh. I mean that to say that removing these lies that we talked about today, removing the lies, removing the limit, is about leaving the legacy that you want to leave. And instead of letting these lies impede on your life, it's actually rising above them, and it's setting a better example that the rest of the world can look up to, because there's not a lot of good examples these days, to be quite honest.
No.
This is why we're so passionate about this, is because we hear time and time again what's on the other side of people who decide to just keep going the way that they're going, and how that can lead to so much division and, quite honestly, divorce and businesses shutting down that should not be shutting down.
Nope.
What's on the other side, we see as well, which is couplepreneurs who are thriving, couplepreneurs who have businesses that are more profitable than ever, couplepreneurs who are building businesses that are leaving a legacy and setting a positive example for every single person around them. And their relationship is better. They're thriving. They're passionate for each other. They're passionate about what it is that they do. And we need a little more passion in this world.
Yes, we do.
We need a little more positive passion happening these days.
We do.
Right?
Yep.
So
I 100% agree. So what is some evidence in your life how what you do changes the lives of other people for the better? And that the more you sell, the more you serve. The more you can show yourself this evidence, the more you will show up in a way that so many people are dying for you to show up.
Yes.
And it is your time now. It is your time. If you go through this process that we just laid out with you today, and you remove the lie and you remove the limit, what this frees you up to do is have more focus, have more energy, have more passion towards the things that you are called to create and to be and to live in this life. And that is why we are here.